Hi everyone, welcome back. Continuing from where we left off in terms of tips for the English exam, we want to focus on the expository writing, which is writing to inform, found in section B of paper 2. Now, if you remember, this section deals with um, emails, letters, reports, notices, articles. And these may come in different forms, and we want to go through these forms, remind ourselves of the layout, but particularly focus on the content for this section. Now, remember what we said about content organization earlier. We want to use paragraphs in our writing. One kind of letter that we can be required to write in this section is a letter of complaint. Now, apart from the layout that we discussed, and I'm going to remind you all of it after this, we want to ensure that our body of that letter is organized similar to this. Your first paragraph, you're going to state what is the problem you're complaining about, what went wrong. Is it a broken clock, a broken relationship, a broken vehicle, something, whatever is the problem, you're going to state it in that first paragraph. Your second paragraph, you're going to look at some of the consequences that could arise out of having that problem. How have you suffered? List that, discuss that, of course, all in standard English. Then you want to come to your third paragraph where you talk about what kind of compensation you would like to have in lieu of the problem that you've suffered, or what action would you like taken, recommendations you will make, etc. And then a final fourth paragraph where you close off letting people know what your contact information is and any other little detail that will allow you to close off your letter. Now that would be a letter of complaint. Another type of letter that they can ask you to write is a letter of request. And remember I said I would remind you all of the layout. In the formal letter layout, you would put the address of the sender, skip a line, put a date. This layout is the block style. Then you put the name of the person, position, the address, then the name, the opening salutation. And then you go into the first paragraph where you would let the person know what you're requesting. In this case, we asking the person to be a motivational speaker for a certain period of time, with to come on a day within a certain period of time. Then we go on to give additional information that may be relevant. In this case, the relevant information was why we want the person to come. And then we had contact information in the last paragraph, and I wished that they would respond soon. Close off with your closing salutation, all block style running across the left side. So a letter of request can be a letter that they ask you to do in this section. This section, they can also ask you to do a report. Now, this is a report where you're going to be covering any particular incident and you're focusing on facts. You want to stay clear of any words that reveal your feelings. In your basic layout of the report, this is a memo format. You would say who is going to, from, your name, date, and subject. Remember, if it's an email format, you're only putting to and subject, no date. The most you can squeeze in is a CC. And if it's a letter format, you're following the layout that I showed you just now on how to do a letter. Then you go into the body of your report. In the body of your report, you begin by stating date, time, place, who, what was involved, because it's an incident report. Then you could state what happened in a chronological sequence. This can take more than one paragraph. And then you conclude with some findings, recommendations, additional information that you think is necessary. Now remember, relevant information is what they would be looking for. Good, and then you're going to close off your report with your name or signature accordingly. There is another report that they can ask you to do, which is a statistical report. And in this statistical report, you would be looking at statistics, data represented in charts, line graphs. So we can have data represented, tables, graphs, pie charts, results of exams, surveys. And then you would want to utilize this kind of vocabulary in this report where you'll be talking about trends. So you're looking at patterns. If it's covering a period, is it rising? Is it falling? Is there a decrease? Is it happening the first time, the second time? So this is the kind of language that you would want to use in a statistical reward. Things like average and steady, and you'd notice if there are fluctuations. If fluctuations refer to rise and fall, or a steady increase or a steady decrease. This is the kind of language you want to use in a statistical report. So in such a report, you want to start with a statement on what the statistics present. Start with the statement that says what the statistics presented is about. So it's a general statement on what the statistics is about. Then you want to identify key elements that are examined. This is where you go in, you deal with the key elements, probably from the most important to the least important, from Monday to Sunday. Depends on how the data is represented. And then you want to sum up these points and make a total statement on what the facts are indicated based on what you're seeing in these various visual representations of data. And that's some tips for your statistical report. Another type of report could be an article, like a news article. And in your news article, you want to ensure that you have certain things in place, like your headline, your byline, and your lead. Your headline, look at the case here, 2 found fatally shot in St. James. Your byline, the person who wrote the article. And your lead, that first sentence that would include your who, what, when, where, and possibly your why or how. Look at this. We get information of that nature in the first paragraph. And remember, when we're doing news articles, you want to put your more important information on top and the less important information below. You also want to ensure that your sentences aren't too long, short sentences, and you're clear again of your opinions. You can quote what other persons say about the incident, but you are just going to present an objective view on the whole matter. That's it for tips for the news article. Here's a sneak peek at some of the questions that they can ask you. This is a past paper question. And notice they said here, format your email. So they tell you what format they want the information presented. And look at your Spanish teacher. It's quite personal. They put you in a particular circumstance and you have to respond according to that circumstance. So we're just going to just look at the layout of email one more time. Remember, emails can take the format of to, whoever, and subject. Those 2 lines, but you can put in a CC. So in this case, if it is an emailed incident report, you're sending it to the principal, but you would like the dean to be in the loop, so you CC the dean. And there's also BCC, which is a blind carbon copy for someone to get the information, but these 2 will have no clue that they are getting it. But those are all the headings you're going to use in an email. Then you go into the body where you will organize your work and write it in accordingly. A memo is different in that you will be putting to, from, date, and subject. Now, you would tend to use memos within an organization, letters for external, people external. If somebody's in one organization, somebody's outside the organization, you may want to communicate with them via letter or email. These are facts to bear in mind if you are given the choice to choose what format you present your information. Okay, Here's another look at another past question. Notice the first line. You are the manager of the National Museum. Now, these questions in the section B of this paper puts you in a scenario and you have to imagine yourself there. What will I do if I'm in that position? And write accordingly. Of course, including all the relevant information that is presented in the question. But that doesn't limit you to going a bit beyond. Like you can set a good tone, and tone is how the writer feels about what they're writing. And you, as a person crafting the piece as the manager, you may want to sound pleasant. So you choose pleasant words like we look forward to your continued patronage, something along those lines to ensure that tone is also suited for whatever it is that is requested in this section. Okay, let's look at notice. You can be called upon to write a notice in section B. Now, if you're writing a notice, we want to start off with the word notice. Capital letters at the top of your page, and then a heading. Now, I have 16th Annual General Meeting, but you will choose a heading that suits whatever is the scenario that they ask you to write the notice about. And then you go to give the relevant details. At least have 2 paragraphs to show some form of organization depending on the scenario. At the end of the notice, you probably put your name, your post, and the date. So we should have covered a lot of the possibilities that can come in this section. I don't know what's coming. Feel it might be a report. I may be wrong. Let's see. But whatever comes, I want you to remember you are going to give it your all because you want to maximize your marks. Okay? Every mark counts. And I want you to take your time and just do your best. So that's it for now. Over and out. Go with God.